The morning had that tight, uneasy calm, like the whole building was holding its breath, waiting for the first hit to land. Like people inside the building know the next wave is already rolling in, and the rest of the league just hasn't noticed yet. Because four different things are sitting on the table right now. A specialist getting real, hard-earned respect from the folks who live in the film room. A major offensive piece being floated for the offseason. A shoulder that's turned into a full-blown national conversation with the Super Bowl right around the corner. And, in the background, a contract decision that could tweak the locker room vibe if it's handled the wrong way. 4 storylines, 1 timeline. Biggest stage of the year. So I'm asking you straight, do you trust the plan? Or do you feel the weather changing? Let's start with the edge New England has that doesn't always show up in the fantasy box score. Field position. Hidden yards. The stuff that wins ugly games and makes the other sideline feel like it's stuck in quicksand. If you've watched this franchise long enough, you know some wins start before the offense ever touches the ball. A clean punt. A return that steals 12, 15, maybe more. One little moment where the other team blinks, and suddenly they're pinned. That's Patriots football. That's the detail or nothing version of the Patriot way. Today, the league basically handed us a megaphone without calling it breaking news. Recognition. The kind that hits different because it came from head coaches. Not fans, not the loudest voices online. Coaches, the people who don't hand out compliments unless they're forced to. Those coaches put Marcus Jones on the Sporting News All-Pro team as the punt returner. And if your first reaction is, cool, special teams, pause. This is the kind of thing that shows up in February, not September. Jones averaged 17.3 yards per punt return and took 2 of them to the house on 21 attempts. That's not a cute stat. That's your offense starting closer to midfield. That's fewer snaps needed to score. That's fewer chances for a penalty, a sack, a blown protection to ruin a drive. That's control. And control is how tight games get won, especially Super Bowls. One short field can tilt an entire quarter. One sudden swing can change the way both coordinators call the next 10 plays. A return that turns a tense, gritty drive into 3 quick points, or 7. It's never glamorous until it's the reason you're lifting the trophy. What makes Marcus Jones even more fun? He's not just the return guy. He's been on the field every game, and he's doing real work on defense too. Interceptions, sacks, tackles, fumble recoveries. He even took an interception back for a touchdown against Houston in the playoffs. So when somebody tries to stuff him into one neat label, the tape kind of shrugs. Also, don't forget the front office already told you what they think. October, 3 years, $34.9 million. That's New England saying, we know what we have. Versatility that creates margin. The kind of player who makes your life easier when the margins get razor thin. And look at what's coming. Seattle wants to dictate tempo. They want 3rd and long. They want your offense dragging through mud and making long drives perfect. But if Marcus Jones flips the field twice, the play sheet changes. The run game gets scarier. Play action hits harder. The clock becomes your friend instead of your enemy. So think about this for a second. Is the league ready for a Super Bowl where the turning point isn't a 60-yard bomb, but a punt return that steals momentum and never hands it back? Because if that swing shows up on that stage, nobody gets to call it luck. Now, while we're talking about New England operating like a true contender, the next storyline is the one fans have been circling since Maye started looking like the guy. Weapons. More weapons. Actual answers. The Super Bowl isn't even here yet, and the offseason talk is already heating up, because smart organizations don't wait until they're behind to start building. They build while they're in front. Yes, Stephon Diggs is under contract. Hunter Henry is under contract. That's a strong foundation. But the NFL doesn't reward comfort. It punishes it. And when you've got a young quarterback with real upside, you don't just ask him to survive chaos. You give him leverage. You give him matchups. You give him easy throws that turn into chunk plays and keep you out of 3rd and long. Which brings us to the name being floated that's going to split the room. Kyle Pitts. Before anyone groans and says, why are we talking about another tight end? Hear me out. This isn't about the label. Pitts has never been a normal tight end. He's a chess piece. In line, in the slot, split out wide, he can live anywhere. And when he's used correctly, defenses get forced into bad choices. Part of his story in Atlanta has always felt unfinished. The talent popped immediately, over 1,000 yards as a rookie, and then it got messy. Not the steady climb people expected. But late in 2025, he started looking like himself again. Over a 6-game stretch, he posted 469 yards and 4 of his 5 touchdowns. That's rhythm. That's confidence. And the part that makes Patriots fans sit up? Josh McDaniels. This offense has history with 2 tight ends. Not 2 tight ends who are basically extra tackles. 2 tight ends who stress the defense. If Pitts lines up next to Hunter Henry, mismatches are everywhere. Who's covering who? A linebacker? Good luck. A safety? Okay, now your run fits change. You go nickel. Cool. Now you're lighter in the box. People will point out New England didn't live in 12 personnel this year. True. But concepts follow talent. When you add a piece like Pitts, you don't just add a player, you expand the menu. And nothing is locked in. Nothing is guaranteed. But if the big wide receiver splash doesn't happen the way everyone hopes, don't be shocked if New England looks at the middle of the field and says, "Fine, we'll win from here." Because for Drake Maye, it's not just another target, it's answers. And answers beat great defenses. Which takes us to the storyline that has everyone staring at practice notes and reading between the lines. 2 words: not much. That's what Mike Vrabel said when asked how concerned he was about Drake Maye's shoulder 10 days before the Super Bowl against the Seahawks. And yeah, it helped. It also lit up a different kind of anxiety, because when it's a quarterback, when it's the throwing shoulder, when it's the Super Bowl, nothing feels small. The belief is Maye's going to play. That part isn't really the question. The question is how close he can get to being himself when it's time to rip the ball into tight windows against the best scoring defense in the league. Vrabel sounded reassuring. Maye sounded steady. He wasn't shocked the injury became a talking point. He basically said what everyone already knows. It's the right shoulder of a starting NFL quarterback. Of course it's going to get attention. There's another layer too. Vrabel said it wasn't a re-aggravation of some old issue. But even taking that at face value, it's hard to ignore that Maye hasn't looked quite as clean in the playoffs as he did in the regular season. Some of that is the competition. Some of that is weather and ugly throwing conditions. And maybe some of it is the shoulder. The numbers paint part of the picture. After completing 72% of his passes in the regular season, he's at 55.8% in the playoffs, 43 for 77. He's been sacked 15 times. He's fumbled 6 times, losing 3. That's a lot of chaos around your franchise quarterback. And yet, he's still making plays. He's been dynamite as a runner. 24 carries, 141 yards, a touchdown. He's thrown 4 touchdown passes. He's extended drives that should have died. He's handled the hard stuff. Now it's about the consistent stuff, the steady stuff, the passing game that keeps you balanced. Because Vrabel said it plainly, you can't live in pure drop-back mode against Seattle. Not against that front, not with their ability to create pressure and win up front. You have to stay balanced. Run the ball. Use complementary passes. Don't turn this into a 3rd and long survival show. Maye said he'll do whatever it takes to feel 100%, or as close as you can get. That's what you want to hear, but it doesn't erase the tension because the Super Bowl has a way of exposing every little limitation. He's going to be out there. He's going to start. The question that decides everything is brutal and simple. Which version of Drake Maye steps onto that field? And while all eyes are on the Super Bowl, the Patriots are already thinking about the Monday after. That's contender brain. Winning doesn't end the work, it raises the stakes. Because even with a 14-3 record and a Super Bowl appearance, roster building doesn't get easier, it gets harder. One uncomfortable reality. There could be retirements. Stephon Diggs, Morgan Moses, Jelani Tavai. Nothing is set in stone, but the possibility alone changes planning. Cap space becomes a weapon. Draft picks become insurance. Then Over the Cap dropped its list of the top 100 potential cap casualties heading into the 2026 offseason, and 3 Patriots popped up. The one that jumps off the page is Anfernee Jennings, number 8 overall on that list. Now that doesn't mean he's gone. It means the conversation exists. And that conversation is more about fit and value than it is about talent. Jennings is a run force guy, sets the edge, does the dirty work. Vrabel tends to prefer more pass rush-centric edges. That's the tension. But here's the reality check. Cutting Jennings doesn't even save a ton, about $3.9 million. That's not franchise-altering money. And late in the year, when the roster needed him, he gave them real snaps, real production. He carved out a role. Christian Ellis showed up on the list too, but his second-half play flipped the narrative. And with uncertainty at linebacker, Gibbons hitting free agency and Tavai being a retirement candidate, it's tough to justify creating another hole unless you already have the replacement lined up. And then there's the name that made people blink, Hunter Henry. He shows up at the bottom of the list, but in football terms, he feels like a lock. Best year of his career, real chemistry with Maye, and stripping a young quarterback of one of his favorite targets is the kind of cap move that saves money and costs wins. That's not how you protect a franchise QB. So if you're looking at all this and asking, okay, what's the most realistic, tough decision? It keeps circling back to Jennings, maybe after free agency, maybe as a trade conversation, maybe as a depth decision depending on what they add. And that's the bigger point. The Patriots don't have to act out of panic. They're already top 10 in cap space. They have 12 draft picks. This isn't a team cornered into bad moves. This is a team with options. And options mean patience. Options mean leverage. Options mean you don't take scissors to a winning roster just to prove you're doing something. So when you zoom out, these four stories connect. Marcus Jones is winning in the margins and getting respected for it. The offense is being linked to a new chess piece to help Maye. The quarterback's shoulder is the tension point, but the mindset is steady. And the roster decisions coming up won't be driven by impulse. They'll be driven by control. Now I'm putting it on you, Patriots Nation. Do you trust that balance between aggression and patience here? Or are you changing something before the next kickoff? If you felt the weight of these decisions, hit like, subscribe, and drop your take in the comments, because I want to know where you land on this.